There are stretches of road truckers would rather not drive at night. Highway 5 in rural Alabama is supposedly one of them. Not because of the sharp turns, not because of the weather, but because of a young woman some drivers claim to have seen standing along the side of the highway. She doesn't wave. She doesn't ask for help. Sometimes she doesn't move at all. She just watches the trucks go by. And according to the legend, she's looking closely at the person behind the wheel. Because many years ago, somewhere along the road, a young woman was supposedly struck and killed by an 18-wheeler. The driver never stopped, and ever since, she's been looking for him. Stories from the road, told late, told quietly. Highway 5 runs through small towns and wooded stretches of northwestern Alabama. Places like Lynn, Natural Bridge, and farther south, Jasper. During the day, there's nothing especially unusual about it. But late at night, especially in bad weather, it's easy to understand how a road like this could collect stories. Long dark stretches, few houses, and miles of shoulder disappearing into the trees. In 2022, a man named Bernie claimed that he and a helper were traveling Highway 5 shortly before midnight when they noticed someone standing on the left side of the road. At first, it looked like a person, a woman standing alone beside the highway, but something about her immediately felt wrong. She wasn't walking, she wasn't waving, she wasn't trying to get their attention. She was just standing there. Bernie's first instinct was to stop. Maybe she was stranded. Maybe she needed help. But before he could pull over, his helper told him,
"No, keep driving."
So Bernie kept going. After they passed the woman, both men were clearly shaken. Then Bernie asked his helper something he hadn't wanted to say out loud. "Did you see her face?" His helper answered,
"She doesn't have a face, bro."
Bernie had noticed something strange too, but to him, it didn't look completely blank. He described her face as almost pixelated. What makes that account interesting is that Bernie later claimed he hadn't heard the Highway 5 legend before that night. Because according to the folklore, a young woman has been appearing along this road for decades. The most common version begins on a rainy night near Lynn, Alabama. A teenage girl is riding home from prom with her boyfriend when the two get into an argument. She asks him to stop the car and let her out. He does. She decides to walk the rest of the way home alone. Somewhere along Highway 5, she's struck by an 18-wheeler. The driver keeps going, and according to the story, her body is discovered the following morning in a ditch beside the road. The driver is never found. That is supposedly why she remains on Highway 5. According to the legend, she isn't simply wandering, she's searching. Some versions claim she appears beside passing trucks. Others say she'll climb onto the side of an 18-wheeler and look through the window at the person driving, as if she's checking every face, looking for the man who killed her. Other motorists have also claimed to see a young woman standing or walking beside the highway, usually late at night. One account describes a trucker braking because he believed he'd struck a girl, only for a search of the road to turn up nobody. Another story claims some local truckers were once so familiar with the legend that they would avoid Highway 5 altogether. They're difficult to verify, but the legend itself appears to have been around for quite some time. One of the earlier published versions appears in Barbara Duffy's 1996 book, Angels and Apparitions, true ghost stories from the South. That version reportedly places the death around 1990. The basic story is similar, but some important details are different. There's no prom. Instead of a young woman and her boyfriend are traveling in a Buick when they begin arguing. The confrontation reportedly becomes violent, and the woman runs toward a truck stop across Highway 5. While crossing the road, she's struck by an 18-wheeler. There's also another variation connected to the old Winston County drag strip, where a woman reportedly leaves after an argument and is later struck by a truck along the highway. Then, years later, the familiar prom night version appears in the 2012 book, Trucker Ghost Stories. The details change, but the core of the legend stays the same. A woman dies on Highway 5, and afterward, drivers begin seeing her. Maybe that's just how folklore works. A story gets told, then retold. A detail disappears, another gets added. Eventually, nobody is completely sure what the original version even was. And that's where the Highway 5 story becomes difficult to pin down. Because for all the versions of her death, for all the supposed sightings, there's one detail that's strangely hard to find. Her name. I couldn't find a newspaper report matching the version most commonly told today. And other people who've looked into the legend have apparently run into the same problem. Maybe there really was an accident, but the details changed so much over time that the original event is now almost impossible to recognize. Maybe a real woman's death slowly became folklore, or maybe there never was a girl on Highway 5 at all. Maybe it was always just a story, something passed between truckers on lonely Alabama roads late at night. But people still claim to see someone out there, standing beside the highway, watching the vehicles pass. And according to the legend, if you're driving a truck, she may be looking a little closer than you think.